What if I told you that your biggest opponent in trading isn't the market, the algorithmic bots, or the Federal Reserve, but you? Yes, you. The emotional version of yourself that panics after a loss, gets euphoric after a win, and constantly second guesses your strategy. This is where the real battle begins. Andrew Aziz doesn't start advanced techniques in day trading with another promise of a magic indicator or a secret setup. Instead, he forces you to look in the mirror. Because until you conquer yourself, no strategy will save you. You sit down at your trading desk thinking you're about to analyze price action. But really, what you're analyzing, whether you admit it or not, is your own fear and greed, dressed up as intuition. The harsh truth is that most of your trading decisions are emotional reactions disguised as rational analysis. Aziz reminds you that trading is simple, but not easy. And the reason it's not easy is because your brain is wired to survive, not to trade. Every red candle triggers a survival instinct. Every green spike lights up a reward center in your brain. It's not about patterns, it's about how you interpret them under pressure. Have you ever broken your trading plan because of a red candle? That's the battlefield, not the chart, not the setup. You're losing to yourself before the market even has a chance to beat you. Aziz drives this point home again and again. Winning traders aren't necessarily the smartest or the most technical. They're the most emotionally disciplined. That's why two traders can have the exact same setup, same entry, same exit strategy, and only one will come out ahead consistently. The difference? One knows how to control his internal state. The other doesn't. And it starts before you even click buy. It begins with how you respond to risk. Aziz echoes Mark Douglas here. You don't need to know what's going to happen next to make money. But your brain wants to know. It craves certainty. And when you don't get that certainty, you get anxious. You start seeing setups that aren't there. You take impulsive trades. Or worse, you freeze. You miss high probability entries because fear of loss paralyzes you. That's not poor strategy. That's poor psychology. Aziz doesn't let you off the hook. He makes it clear. You are responsible for your results. Not your broker, not your tools, not the market. You. And that's both terrifying and empowering. Terrifying because there's nowhere to hide. Empowering because once you own your weakness, you can fix it. That's the first key insight of this book. Trading is a mirror. It shows you who you are under pressure. And if you want to succeed, you don't just need a better strategy, you need a better version of yourself. And this is where Aziz's methods intersect powerfully with Jared Tendler's The Mental Game of Trading. Tendler speaks of the emotional cycle that drives our performance patterns. Aziz illustrates this same cycle through real trading examples. For instance, the way a trader enters a tilt state after 2 consecutive losses, doubling down on a risky trade to get even. Aziz dissects this behavior with surgical precision. You see how irrational behavior comes from emotional overload, not a lack of knowledge. You're not trying to win every trade. You're trying to execute every trade with consistency. That's a different goal. That's the shift Aziz invites you to make. Because when you focus on consistency, you take your identity out of the outcome. You start to judge yourself not by profit or loss, but by discipline. Did I follow my plan? Becomes more important than did I make money today? That's how you build real edge, not by stacking indicators, but by removing emotional noise. And here's the kicker. When you stop needing to win, you start winning more often. Why? Because you're finally trading the plan, not your feelings. You've exited the emotional loop that traps most retail traders. You've stepped into the small percentage of people who treat trading as performance psychology, not prediction. So part 1 isn't just about recognizing the battlefield. It's about choosing to fight the right war. The war against overconfidence, fear, greed, revenge, and self-doubt. Every chapter that follows builds on this foundational truth. If you don't master your mind, the market will master you. Before the bell rings, before the level 2 window lights up with chaos, and before your first trade even forms in your mind, you've already made or lost money. Not on the screen, but in your mind. Andrew Aziz makes it crystal clear. Successful trading begins hours before you hit buy. The elite don't wing it into the open. They prepare with ritual, clarity, and discipline. If you're still rolling out of bed 5 minutes before the market opens, you're playing a losing game. Your morning routine is your first edge. It's the invisible force behind your execution. Think about it. Athletes stretch before they sprint. Performers warm up before they sing. Why would you go into one of the most high-stress decision-making environments in the world with a cluttered mind and a foggy body? Aziz preaches the importance of structure. His own morning begins with physical activity, light cardio or movement, to shift his physiological state. It's not about fitness, it's about focus. It's about signaling to your brain that this is game time. Trading is performance, and performance demands readiness. You're not just preparing your charts, you're preparing your nervous system. That's what most retail traders miss. They log in, check the pre-market movers, maybe draw a trend line or two, and think they're ready, but mentally, they're reactive. Aziz emphasizes mindfulness, structured breathing, even 5 minutes of stillness to center yourself. You're not chasing certainty, you're building presence. That mental shift from reactive to responsive is the first domino in a good trading day. Then comes the review. Not of others' opinions, but of your own trading journal. Before entering new trades, Aziz reviews yesterday's behavior. Did he follow the plan? What setups did he trade well? Where did emotions sneak in? This backward glance isn't punishment, it's calibration. It's about rewiring pattern recognition based on reality, not bias. Because let's face it, you remember the wins more vividly than the mistakes. That's how your ego protects you. But reviewing losses with honesty turns pain into precision. Aziz also builds a watch list, but not just of stocks. He builds a watch list of himself. He checks in on his own state. Is he feeling sharp? Is he distracted? Does he have unresolved stress? Because here's the truth. If you're carrying emotional baggage from your personal life, it will show up in your trades. So his pre-market prep includes what Jared Tendler would call mental mapping. Identifying your emotional temperature before you trade is like checking the weather before flying. Turbulence ahead? Adjust your altitude, or don't fly. And let's talk about the actual market prep. Aziz doesn't just scan for volume and float. He looks for context. Where is the broader market trending? Are there catalysts, news, earnings? The goal isn't to predict, it's to frame. Because you're not just trading stocks, you're trading behavior. The morning watch list is built with surgical precision. Stocks in play, with clean daily charts, high volume, and potential catalysts. But the real art is in the why. Why does this stock matter today? Why does it have a story traders will care about? Why will it attract attention and volume? One of the most powerful elements of Aziz's routine is his community. He trades live every morning with his team. This adds two critical psychological advantages: accountability and shared focus. When you speak your plan out loud, you reinforce it. When others are watching, you're less likely to deviate. That social pressure becomes a tool, not a trap, if you use it intentionally. And more importantly, you start your day in alignment. You're not alone in a void of flashing candles. You're in a rhythm with other focused minds. That rhythm protects you from impulsivity. Aziz's approach mirrors Steve Ward's performance model: preparation, execution, review. Most traders only focus on execution. But elite traders, like elite performers, invest heavily in the preparation phase. Why? Because the first 15 minutes of the market are the most emotionally intense, and only preparation can anchor you. Have you ever jumped into a trade in the first minute, only to regret it by minute 3? That's not a strategy issue. That's a preparation issue. So here's your wake-up call. Stop treating your trading day like a slot machine. Start treating it like a performance. Set your alarm earlier. Move your body. Clear your mind. Review your mistakes. Check your emotions. Build your plan. Speak it out loud. And then, and only then, approach the market. Because if your morning is sloppy, your trades will be too. Aziz gives you the blueprint, but it's up to you to show up like a pro. You think you're choosing your setups based on logic, on edge, on back-tested statistics. But what if I told you that, more often than not, you're choosing based on emotion, on fear of missing out, on greed for a home run, on the quiet urge to get back at the market? Andrew Aziz peels back the curtain in advanced techniques in day trading to reveal an uncomfortable truth. The setups you pick are often a mirror of your emotional state, not your trading plan. Think about it. How many times have you deviated from your A-plus play to chase something that just looked good? How often have you switched strategies midday because the first one didn't feel right? That's not adaptability. That's emotional drift. Aziz warns that many traders confuse flexibility with instability. A mature trader knows the difference between adapting to the market and abandoning the plan. This distinction is razor thin and emotionally charged. Setups aren't just technical structures, they are psychological filters. A breakout pattern doesn't only attract momentum traders, it attracts impulsive ones too. A pullback setup doesn't just signal opportunity, it tests your patience. Every setup carries a psychological profile, and Aziz urges you to match that with your own temperament. Are you someone who thrives on fast decisions? Or do you crumble when volatility hits? Are you more reactive or anticipatory? The wrong match between trader and setup creates internal tension, and that's the seed of poor execution. Aziz outlines his preferred setups, like the 1-minute ORB, opening range breakout, ABCD patterns, and reversal signals. But he doesn't present them as mechanical entries. He presents them as emotional checkpoints. For instance, a 1-minute ORB looks enticing, but if you're emotionally charged at the open, that speed can become a weapon against you. You're not just entering a trade, you're entering a psychological arena. You need to know not just what the pattern looks like, but what it demands from you emotionally. He emphasizes predefined criteria, not just entry triggers, but disqualifiers. When not to take a trade is just as important as when to enter, and that discipline has to be established before the market opens. Once the bell rings, your objectivity starts to erode. Aziz teaches you to lock in your criteria: float, volume, relative strength, catalyst, clean daily chart, so your brain has fewer decisions to make in the moment. Because every unstructured decision invites emotion. Here's where Aziz aligns with Brett Steenbarger's work on emotional framing. Your state of mind changes how you interpret setups. In a calm state, you might pass on a borderline trade. In an anxious state, you justify it. That same flag pattern looks like gold at 10:15, but feels like garbage after 2 losses. That's not the market changing. It's you. That's the danger of not grounding yourself in pre-market logic. Emotional states warp risk perception. Have you ever entered a trade and immediately hoped it would work? That's a sign you didn't fully trust the setup. Aziz says if you're hoping, you're already off plan. Your setups should give you confidence, not anxiety. They should feel like yes moments, not maybe guesses. If you're hunting for trades rather than waiting for them, you've already lost your edge. And the setups that feel too good to pass up, they're often traps. Aziz encourages you to slow down, document them, study them later. Because if it's truly a good setup, you'll see it again. Aziz even advises traders to label setups with confidence scores, not just ORB or VWAP bounce, but A+ with catalyst or B with low volume. This process forces accountability, and over time, it builds self-awareness. You begin to see which setups match your psychology and which ones constantly trigger emotional turbulence. Trading becomes less about what works universally and more about what works for you. The goal isn't to master every setup. The goal is to master the right setups for your mind. That means knowing when you're most prone to bias, when you get greedy, when you freeze. Aziz teaches you to reverse engineer your best trades. What was the setup, the context, and, most importantly, your mental state. Because the real edge isn't just in the pattern. It's in your ability to trade it consistently, under pressure, without emotional leakage. So next time you spot a setup, don't just ask, is this valid? Ask, am I ready to trade this? Because if the setup is right, but your mind isn't, you're walking into a trap of your own making. The opening bell doesn't just start the trading day. It unleashes chaos. It's where volume explodes, spreads widen, and traders either shine or shatter. If you're not careful, the open becomes a trap. But Andrew Aziz treats the open with surgical precision. He doesn't chase it. He prepares for it. If you approach the open with adrenaline, emotion, or hesitation, you're already out of sync. The first 15 minutes, according to Aziz, aren't about being aggressive. They're about being precise. You need to reframe how you see the market open. It's not a lottery ticket. It's not a get-rich-quick window. It's a testing ground for your plan. Aziz teaches that success at the open depends on preparation done long before the bell rings. You're not there to react. You're there to execute. The open is fast, yes, but that doesn't mean you should be reckless. Aziz calls it calculated aggression. It's waiting for the right trigger in the chaos, not jumping into every flicker of green or red. He often uses the 1-minute Orbi opening range breakout setup, but here's the catch. He only takes it if everything aligns. High volume, clean daily chart, strong catalyst, and controlled price action. That's rare. So on many days, Aziz doesn't trade the open at all. Why? Because not trading is a decision. A professional knows when to stand down. The amateurs feel pressure to act just because the bell rang. Here's the emotional challenge. The open punishes hesitation and rewards discipline, but only if you know the difference. Many traders freeze, scared of being wrong. Others jump in, chasing price with no plan. Aziz reminds you, your job isn't to be right at the open, it's to manage risk. Every open trade must have a clear stop, a clear target, and a clear reason to exist. Without that trifecta, you're gambling. And you don't need the market's permission to wait. This is where Aziz's method connects to the work of Mike Bellafiore, who talks about situational awareness. The open is a test of your ability to read context under pressure. What's the broader market doing? What's the stock's pre-market volume? How did it behave yesterday? Who's participating in this move, retail or institutions? You're not just reading charts, you're reading the room, and the room moves fast. Your only protection is preparation. Aziz emphasizes what he calls the pre-market blueprint. Before the open, you've mapped out your trade ideas. You've marked your levels. You've visualized the entries and exits. So when price hits that level, you're not surprised, you're ready. And if it never gets there, you don't force it. That's the difference between trading from a plan and trading from hope. The market is chaos. Your plan is your anchor. And the open isn't for revenge. If you lost money yesterday, this isn't the time to make it back. Aziz warns that the open amplifies whatever mental state you bring into it. If you're calm, you can move with clarity. If you're angry, anxious, or desperate, you're toast. That's why his morning routine, discussed in part 2, is critical. You can't expect to execute well in a storm if you walk in already shaking. Have you ever taken a trade at the open just because you felt like you should be trading? That's ego. That's insecurity. And it will cost you. Aziz urges traders to give themselves permission to not trade the open, to wait for the first clean setup, to treat the open like a hunter treats the woods, quiet, observant, and patient. Because one good trade is better than 10 impulsive ones. Aziz also reviews his open trades daily. What did he see? What did he feel? Did he stick to the blueprint or drift into hope? That review process turns the chaos into lessons. Over time, your ability to read the open improves, not because the market gets easier, but because you get more disciplined. So stop glorifying the open. It's not a slot machine or a hero-making arena. It's just another part of the trading day, one that demands sharp focus, strict criteria, and total emotional control. If you can survive the open with precision, the rest of the day becomes easier. You've already navigated the storm. What's your actual job as a trader? No, it's not to make money. It's to manage risk, to survive, to protect your capital like a soldier guards the last bullet. Andrew Aziz hammers this into your psyche in Advanced Techniques in Day Trading. Without airtight risk management, your strategy doesn't matter. Your setups don't matter. Even your psychology crumbles. Because you'll be trading scared, trading defensive, or worst, trading with money you can't afford to lose. Most traders think of stop losses as technical levels. Aziz reframes them as psychological contracts. Every time you set a stop, you're promising your future self, if this doesn't work, I'll walk away. But how many times have you broken that promise? How many times have you moved your stop just in case it bounces? That's not strategy. That's betrayal. And that erosion of self-trust? That's what slowly kills your confidence. The biggest enemy of consistent trading isn't bad trades, it's big losses. Aziz makes this brutally clear. One oversized loss can undo weeks of progress. It's not just the money, it's the psychological damage, the fear it plants in your next trade, the hesitation it creates when a valid setup appears. That's why Aziz caps his risk per trade, not just in theory, in practice. He recommends a fixed dollar amount you can emotionally detach from, not too small to be irrelevant, not too big to scare you, just enough to stay sharp without triggering panic. You don't need to hit home runs. You need to avoid striking out. That's the shift. That's how you build longevity. Aziz compares it to a boxing match. You're not trying to knock the market out. You're trying not to get knocked out. A good trader takes small jabs, tests the waters, and retreats when needed. That's not weakness. That's skill. That's control. And this is where Aziz's philosophy overlaps with Mark Douglas. The best traders aren't afraid to get out. Exits are power. They're not admissions of defeat. They're strategic resets. If your stop hits, the market isn't punishing you. It's giving you feedback. The trade didn't work. That's all. Don't make it personal. Don't make it emotional. Just move on. Aziz introduces the concept of daily max loss. This is the hard stop for your entire day. Hit it and walk away. Log out. Go for a walk. Review later. Why? Because beyond that point, your emotions will hijack your brain. You'll take revenge trades. You'll abandon logic. You'll seek redemption. And that's when you blow up. A trader without a daily max loss is like a pilot flying without a fuel gauge. You might make it, but eventually you won't. There's a deep emotional relief that comes when you respect your limits, because now your brain trusts you. It knows you won't let one mistake spiral. That trust builds confidence. Confidence builds patience. Patience builds edge. And edge, real edge, comes from restraint more than action. Aziz's own trading journals show that his best weeks aren't the ones with big wins. They're the ones with no big losses. Let's talk about partial exits. Aziz uses them to lock in gains and reduce emotional stress. Instead of holding your entire position to a target, you take some off the table when the trade moves in your favor. This accomplishes two things. First, it turns the trade into a free runner, which shifts your mindset from fear to opportunity. Second, it rewards good entries, even if the full move doesn't happen. That's psychological anchoring at work. You're stacking small wins, not chasing monsters. And yes, risk management also means position sizing. Aziz teaches the formula: risk per trade divided by stop loss equals share size. Simple, right? But how many traders fudge the numbers? How many ignore it entirely and just feel it out? That's not edge. That's chaos. If you can't define your size, you're not managing risk. You're guessing. And guesswork has no place in professional trading. So here's the truth. You're not here to be right. You're here to be available for when the market gives you a chance. That means protecting your capital, protecting your psychology, protecting your focus. And none of that happens without rock-solid risk rules. Aziz doesn't just teach you to use stops, he teaches you to respect them, to honor them like your trading life depends on it, because it does. The market doesn't reward bravery. It rewards discipline. And if you want to play this game long-term, you need to fall in love with the boring stuff. Tight stops, defined size, small losses, maximum control. Because in this business, survival is sexy. Reading the tape isn't about watching price flicker. It's about understanding behavior. Andrew Aziz doesn't romanticize level 2 or time and sales data as magical predictors. Instead, he teaches you to use them as tools to sharpen your intuition, not your predictions. If you're looking at the tape, hoping it will tell you what's going to happen, you've already misunderstood the game. The tape doesn't forecast, it reveals. It reveals tension, aggression, hesitation. It's not a crystal ball, it's a heartbeat. Tape reading is the art of noticing. It's about seeing when buyers are absorbing sellers, when big prints appear and the price doesn't move, when the bid stack suddenly thins out, or when a hidden buyer keeps refreshing at the same level. These aren't signals, they're clues. And Aziz trains you to treat them like context, not confirmation. Because relying on the tape to give you certainty will only fuel your addiction to control. And trading isn't about control, it's about adaptability. The first lesson Aziz drills home is this: tape reading is useless without experience. You can't learn it in a weekend. You learn it by watching thousands of hours of price behavior, repetition, exposure, journaling what you see. Over time, patterns emerge, not patterns in price, but in behavior. You start to sense when a breakout is strong, not just because of volume, but because of the energy in the tape. When Aziz sees a large seller repeatedly failing to push the price down, that's not just data, that's a signal of intent. And that distinction is critical. One of the most common mistakes traders make with tape is overreacting. Aziz warns you not to jump every time you see a large order. Market makers play games. Iceberg orders hide size. Spoofers bait retail. If you don't filter what you see through context, you'll be manipulated. That's why he always combines tape with the chart, the setup, and the broader context. No single clue stands alone. It's a puzzle. Have you ever seen a stock breaking out, but the tape feels heavy? That's a contradiction worth noting. Aziz teaches you to log those moments. When price action and tape don't align, something's off. And that's where real edge lives. Not in textbook setups, but in noticing when things don't add up. That sensitivity comes from review, from screen time, from asking questions like, what was the tape doing before the breakout failed? Or how did volume look as the breakout approached? And this is where Aziz ties it to performance psychology. Tape reading requires presence, full attention, not multitasking, not chatting, not hoping. If your mind is elsewhere, you'll miss the micro shifts. Aziz sometimes spends hours watching a stock without trading it. Why? Because he's sharpening his eye. He's studying flow. That's the practice. Just like a musician plays scales, a trader reads tape over and over until pattern recognition becomes instinct. Aziz suggests focusing on specific moments, consolidations before a breakout, retests of VWAP, failed flushes at key levels. These are moments where tape reveals intent, not certainty, intent. And intent matters more than direction. A weak flush with no follow-through tells you more than a clean breakdown. A bid that keeps reloading signals support, even when the chart looks shaky. You don't trade every tape tick. You log, reflect, and adjust. He also teaches restraint. Just because you see something interesting on the tape doesn't mean you should trade it. That's temptation talking. Aziz trains you to use the tape to filter trades, not chase them. To say, this confirms my plan, or this invalidates my thesis. The tape is your assistant, not your boss. You must lead with your plan. Otherwise, you're just reacting. The deeper truth Aziz unveils is this. Tape reading is about building a relationship with flow, with movement, with energy. It's subtle, it's messy, but over time, you get a feel for it. And that feel, that's edge. Not because it guarantees outcomes, but because it gives you timing. And timing in day trading is everything. So forget the myth that level 2 is magic. It's not. It's a language. And like any language, it only becomes useful once you've immersed yourself in it. Aziz gives you the framework, but the fluency, that comes from you, from watching, reviewing, feeling the rhythm, until you no longer think about what the tape is saying. You're not learning from trading unless you're reflecting on it. Andrew Aziz doesn't mince words. Journaling is mandatory, not optional, not a nice to have. It's your trading mirror, your compass, your coach. If you're not writing down what you did, why you did it, and how you felt, then you're not growing. You're just pressing buttons and hoping for the best. And hope, as Aziz would tell you, is not a strategy. Most traders think journaling is about collecting screenshots and logging profits. But that's just the surface. Real journaling goes deeper. It asks, what did I feel when I entered that trade? Why did I size up on that setup? What was my mental state when I moved my stop? Journaling, according to Aziz, is where patterns emerge, not patterns in the market, but in you. It's where your habits, biases, strengths, and weaknesses stop being invisible. Aziz urges you to review your trades every day, not just at the end of the week. Why? Because memory is flawed. You'll forget the emotion, you'll distort the context. The longer you wait, the less honest you'll be. So make it part of your post-trade ritual. Win or lose, document it. Not just the outcome, but the process, the reason, the emotion. Because trading isn't a game of perfect execution, it's a game of pattern correction. You can't correct what you won't confront. One of the most powerful journaling habits Aziz teaches is labeling emotional states. He asks you to write down how you felt before the trade, during the trade, and after it. Anxious? Confident? Frustrated? Hopeful? Those words matter. They form emotional fingerprints. And over time, you'll begin to notice that most of your worst trades share the same emotional precursors. That's your edge if you pay attention. And let's be clear, this isn't therapy. It's performance science. Aziz draws parallels with top athletes and performers. Golfers review every swing. Surgeons review every procedure. Why would you, a financial decision maker in real time, not review every trade? Journaling isn't about guilt. It's about data. And the most valuable data in your trading journey is your behavioral data. Aziz even recommends grading yourself, not just your trades. He asks, did you follow your plan? Did you break your rules? Did you enter on confirmation or impulse? You can have a red P&L and still get an A+ if you followed your system. That reframes failure. It separates process from outcome. And that's the key to long-term consistency. You stop chasing green days and start chasing good decisions. Over time, this process builds a personal database. You'll notice that certain setups perform better in certain market conditions, or that you trade breakouts better in the morning than in the afternoon. These aren't general truths. They're your truths, and no book or course can give you that. Only your journal can. Have you ever found yourself making the same mistake over and over? Aziz's response is simple. You didn't journal it deeply enough. Because when you confront your mistake in writing, when you read your own words describing your own error, it hits different. It's harder to hide. And that self-confrontation is what turns amateur habits into professional behavior. He also stresses the importance of end-of-week and monthly reviews. These aren't just performance summaries, they're trend analyses. Are you improving? Are your losing days getting smaller? Are your winning trades coming from your A-plus setups? Without this data, you're trading blind. You might feel like you're progressing, but feelings lie. The numbers don't. Aziz ties journaling back to psychology. When you review your progress, you reinforce your identity as a disciplined trader. You're not just someone who trades, you're someone who reflects, learns, evolves. That identity becomes a shield. It protects you from tilt, from revenge trading, from spiraling, because you have a structure, a process, a map. So stop treating journaling as a chore. Treat it like a ritual, a weapon, a source of truth, because the market won't teach you what you need to know about yourself. Only your journal will. Aziz hands you the pen. But only you can write the story of your transformation. Let's call it what it is. Revenge trading is emotional sabotage. Overtrading is a cry for significance. And ego? It's the assassin of every trader's career. Andrew Aziz doesn't sugarcoat this part of trading psychology. If you've ever taken just one more trade after a loss to get even, congratulations, you've been hijacked. Not by the market, but by your ego. And if you don't tame that beast, you won't last. Your ego is the voice that whispers, you should have seen that move. It's the part of you that can't walk away red, that wants to prove something, not to the market, but to yourself. Aziz lays it bare. Trading with ego is trading to win an argument, not trading to make quality decisions. You're not analyzing, you're avenging. You're not executing, you're emoting. He explains that revenge trades usually follow one of two scenarios, a string of small losses or one massive, ego-wounding hit. In both cases, the temptation is the same: win back your dignity. But here's the truth. Markets don't care how you feel. They won't give you a make-up trade. They won't balance the scales. Aziz reminds you, the market is never wrong. Your response to it might be. Aziz teaches that the solution isn't willpower, it's systems. You must build structural protection around your emotions. That's why he emphasizes daily max loss limits, a fixed number of trades per day, and even time-based cooldowns. If you've had 2 losses back-to-back, you step away. Not because you're weak, but because your emotional state is compromised. This is risk management of the mind. Here's the trap. Revenge trades often feel urgent. The setup looks too good to pass. The timing feels perfect. That's your brain tricking you. That's dopamine in disguise. Aziz urges you to pause in these moments. If a trade really is high quality, it will meet your criteria, even when reviewed with a calm mind. If not, it's not a trade. It's a tantrum. Aziz connects this directly with overtrading. These aren't separate issues. They're the same disease in different outfits. Overtrading often comes from a belief that more trades equal more chances to win. But in reality, more trades often mean more exposure to your worst self. Aziz shares stats from his own trading logs. His best weeks came from fewer high-quality trades, not from frenzied clickfests. The more selective he became, the more consistent his equity curve. He warns against revenge winning too. That's when you get lucky on a reckless trade and think it worked. The danger? You reinforce the wrong behavior. Your brain starts to associate emotional decisions with reward. And that's the beginning of a long, slow decline into inconsistency. Aziz's advice? Track those trades. Tag them. Own them. If a trade didn't meet your rules, label it, even if it made money. Because it's not a win. It's a warning. This is where Aziz channels Jared Tendler's teachings. Emotion is not the enemy. Suppression is. You don't conquer ego by pretending it doesn't exist. You conquer it by creating feedback loops that expose it early. That's why journaling from Part 7 and trade reviews are so vital. They shine light on behaviors you'd rather ignore, and once seen, they can be adjusted. He recommends asking specific post-trade questions. Was I trading my plan or my pain? Was I calm or chasing? Did this trade come from my process or my pride? These aren't feel-good affirmations. They're weapons. They force you to confront reality. And the more honest you are, the faster you evolve. Aziz's own career had its ego traps. He shares stories of doubling down, getting lucky, then blowing up later from the confidence that followed. The market humbled him, and he's thankful for it, because it taught him the most important lesson of all. Your job is not to be right. Your job is to follow a process, over and over, with discipline, with detachment. So if you're riding high or spiraling low, step back, pause. Don't just ask, what's the next trade? Ask, am I emotionally neutral? Because if you're not trading, you're reacting. And that's the ego's playground. The market evolves, and if you don't, you disappear. That's the brutal truth Andrew Aziz confronts you with in Advanced Techniques in Day Trading. A static trader is a doomed trader. The setups that made you money last quarter might be the ones that bleed you out today. If your playbook isn't adaptable, it's obsolete. But here's the good news. Aziz shows you how to build a flexible framework that grows with you, not against you. You need to stop thinking of your strategy as a rigid rule book. It's not a law. It's a language. It changes. It morphs. It adapts to volatility, volume, news, seasonality, and yes, even your own psychology. Aziz introduces the concept of a dynamic playbook, a living document of your best strategies, categorized not just by setup type, but by market condition, because a low volatility day demands different tools than a trending breakout morning. In his own trading, Aziz keeps detailed notes on which strategies work in which environments. For instance, he knows that ORBs work best in high-volume, catalyst-driven stocks, but on choppy, sideways days, he leans into scalping, reversals, or just steps aside. He doesn't force a strategy onto a market that isn't playing along. That flexibility isn't weakness, it's wisdom. It's the difference between a trader and a technician. The key is to categorize your setups by both probability and personality. Aziz wants you to know which strategies suit your temperament. Are you fast and decisive? Momentum trades might work. Do you prefer structure and patience? Maybe VWAP reversals are your edge. He pushes you to test, refine, and retire setups with brutal honesty. Just because it worked once doesn't mean it deserves a permanent seat at your table. Aziz ties this directly to performance journaling. Every trade you log adds data to your evolving playbook. Over time, trends emerge. Which setups yield the highest reward to risk, which ones spike your emotions, and which consistently bait you into poor decisions. You're not just optimizing for returns, you're optimizing for compatibility. The best strategies aren't just profitable, they're sustainable for you. This aligns closely with Brett Steenbarger's principle of self-aware trading. You grow by reviewing what works uniquely for your psychology. Aziz embodies this by constantly tweaking position size, entry timing, and exit strategy, not across the board, but per strategy. Some setups he scales into. Others he trades with surgical precision. Each tactic is tailored, not standardized. And yes, setups retire. Aziz talks about the expiration date on every strategy, when a playbook item stops working due to changes in market structure. Like when low-float stocks stop reacting to news or large caps go flat, you don't cling. You adapt. You test new ideas. You lean into curiosity, not comfort. Because survival isn't about what you know, it's about what you're willing to unlearn. He recommends a quarterly playbook review. Every few months, sit down with your journal and ask, what's still working? What's fading? What needs tweaking? What's missing? This ritual keeps you nimble. It's like spring cleaning for your strategy. You declutter the outdated and spotlight the evolving. And remember, an adaptable playbook isn't scattered, it's focused. Aziz warns against strategy overload. You don't need 15 setups. You need 3 to 5 that you know inside out. Depth over breadth, mastery over novelty. Every setup in your playbook should have clear criteria, entry logic, stop rules, and psychological demands. If it's not written down, it's not real. He even suggests color coding your playbook. Green for active and proven, yellow for testing, red for retired. That visual clarity reinforces decision-making. You're not winging it. You're updating it like software. You're the engineer of your edge. So let go of the idea that one strategy will make you rich. That's a fantasy. What will actually make you consistent is having a living, breathing playbook that reflects your evolution. Aziz's traders aren't married to methods. They're loyal to adaptation. That's the secret. That's the edge. You started this journey chasing setups, chasing profits. But if you followed Andrew Aziz this far, you know now that was never the game. The real path isn't from trade to trade. It's from who you are today to who you must become to trade consistently. In Advanced Techniques in Day Trading, Aziz closes with a hard truth. Mastery isn't about learning more. It's about executing better. And execution comes from habits, not hype. You already know the techniques. You've read the books, watched the YouTube videos, bought the courses. But ask yourself, how many times have you really followed your plan for an entire week? Aziz challenges you here, not to trade more, not to learn more, but to repeat more, because mastery lives in repetition, in routine, in ritual. You don't rise to the level of your potential, you fall to the level of your practice. That's why Aziz drills daily process. Every day, the same checklist, the same prep, the same risk controls. Not because he lacks creativity, but because he values consistency. He understands that in trading, boring is beautiful, and real growth feels repetitive. If your trading day is too exciting, you're doing something wrong. Aziz maps the path from amateur to master, not by how much you know, but by how consistently you behave. That's the difference. The master doesn't know more setups, the master needs fewer, because they've conditioned their mind and body to respond under pressure. Just like a pilot running through a pre-flight checklist or a surgeon preparing a sterile field, you're building muscle memory, not just mental, emotional. And here's the kicker. Mastery is invisible. You won't feel it happen. There's no gong, no trophy, just fewer emotional mistakes, fewer reactive trades, a quieter mind, a slower pulse. Aziz says it best. The best traders look bored, because boredom is what's left when fear and greed are no longer driving the car. So how do you get there? It's not one big change. It's small decisions made relentlessly. Aziz urges you to focus on one variable at a time. Fix your stop placement, then your size, then your entry confirmation. Don't overhaul everything. Refine what already works. Mastery isn't radical, it's methodical. He also encourages mentorship, not just to learn, but to be accountable. Mastery thrives in community, in feedback, in observation. Aziz still trades live not because he needs to, but because it keeps him sharp, keeps him humble. The journey never ends. Mastery is a ceiling that keeps rising. You never arrive, you evolve. There's a deep spiritual dimension here too. Mastery means detachment from the outcome, from the ego, from the need to be right. Aziz frames trading as a personal development path disguised as a career. It will show you your flaws faster than anything else. Your fears, your impulsiveness, your stories. And that's the gift, because trading doesn't just test your skill, it builds your character. Have you ever had a stretch of perfect discipline? No FOMO, no revenge trades, just clean execution, and then blown it all in one impulsive move? Aziz doesn't shame you. He gets it. He's done it. But he teaches you how to respond. Not with guilt, but with curiosity. What triggered the slip? What pressure point snapped? Because mastery isn't perfection, it's recovery. And when you recover faster, you lose less. And when you lose less, you survive longer. And survival, over time, becomes edge. That's the compound effect. Not of profits, but of discipline, of habits, of presence. Aziz's mastery is built not on knowing everything, but on executing the simple things when it matters most. So don't seek more tools, seek more truth. Don't chase better entries, chase better behavior. Don't admire the calm trader on the screen, become them. Not by copying their trades, but by copying their mindset, their process, their commitment. Because in the end, that's what this is all about. You're not trying to become a trader. You're trying to become someone who trades well, every day, through noise, through doubt, through storms. Aziz doesn't promise you ease, but he does promise you this. If you build habits, review relentlessly, and trade with presence, you'll get there. And when you do, you won't need validation. Because you'll know. You're not hoping anymore. You're not chasing anymore. You're executing. You're mastering. You've just walked through the heart of Andrew Aziz's Advanced Techniques in Day Trading. And if there's one truth that echoes through every page, every setup, and every strategy, it's this. Trading success isn't about prediction. It's about preparation, discipline, and psychological mastery. You've learned that your real enemy isn't the market, it's your own fear, your own ego, your own inconsistency. From crafting a powerful morning routine to choosing setups that fit your emotional blueprint, to reading the tape with patience and logging your trades with ruthless honesty, Aziz equips you with more than techniques. He gives you a system, a mindset, a way of life. But none of this matters unless you apply it. So go back, reread part 1 if your discipline needs sharpening. Study part 7 if your journaling is shallow. Rebuild your playbook using part 9's framework. Start today. And if this spoke to you, don't keep it to yourself. Like, comment, subscribe, share it with the trader who's stuck in the emotional loop. Because every trader can improve, but only the ones who act will change. Trade safe, trade smart, trade consciously. This is your edge now. Use it.